House Republicans head for the exit. I'm Jamal Simmons, and this is why you should care. Every political cycle sees retirements or members of Congress choosing to run for other offices. But this week, there was a flurry of activity on the House GOP side. We chatted up our colleague from the Hill, national reporter Reid Wilson, to get some details. Anybody who cares about elections should be paying attention to this. Apparently, there are a bunch of Republican retirements taking place. Can you tell us about it?
So we've had about 5 House Republicans say that they're not going to run for re-election in just the last week. And that's a little bizarre because in the rhythm of the normal election cycle, you know this, the retirements come after the August recess when members have had time to go home and talk to their families, sort of reflect on their careers and where they want to go next, or after the holiday recess in the first part of the even-numbered year. The fact that they're coming so early has House Republicans really worried that they're about to face this exodus of retirements. Now, House Republicans are in the minority, and they've got to win back about 18 seats to get back, I think it's 19 seats, to get back to a majority in Congress. It gets harder and harder to win back that majority when you've got to defend a bunch of open seats. And this time around, there are a bunch of new seats that are suddenly competitive where Republicans are going to have to spend money. So they're seeing the battleground increase at a time when they need to be focused on Democratic-held seats, especially the ones that Democrats won in 2018. This basically makes their job harder, and it says a little something about how pessimistic Republicans are about their chances of actually taking back the House.
Yeah, and I see some of them, though, are places that, look, Democrats aren't going to win, right? A couple of them are from Alabama, Michigan, Texas. So which seats are the ones that might be on the bubble, or does that even matter? Is it just like this is the harbinger of more retirements to come?
I think it's a couple of things. First of all, it's the fact that being in Congress is not the great job that it used to be. It doesn't have sort of the prestige that it used to be. In this hyper-partisan time, you go home and instead of some constituent stopping you and thanking you for helping them in the supermarket, they're going to stop you and yell at you.
Yeah.
It gets even worse for members of the minority, whose job in the minority is basically to show up, collect your paycheck, and make up a quorum. You don't have a lot of influence on legislation that actually happens. And if a party thinks that they're not going to get back to the majority in a long time, they start to rethink, what am I actually doing here? Why am I spending so many days away from my kids? Essentially maintaining 2 households on a salary that is very good for the average American, but not that great if you got to maintain 2 households, especially one right here in the most expensive part of the country.
How much does Donald Trump matter here?
Man.
His poll ratings, his way of tweeting out stuff every day.
Look, I talked to one House Republican who is sort of on the brink of being at the point where you consider retirement, but I don't think he's quite there yet. And he was telling me that, look, a lot of these people will tell him that they're just tired of, and frankly embarrassed, of having to explain the tweets all the time. It is, in this hyper-partisan age when, President Trump is such a focus of everything that we do, and it is so central to the news narrative. You can't build your own brand. You can't go home and talk about what you brought back to the district or that VA hospital that you just saved or something like that. You've always got to be responding to what the president just tweeted.
So what about last cycle where the Republicans lost the House? Did we see a raft of retirements before the last elections?
We saw a few, and some of those retirements came in districts that eventually ended up being competitive and flipping to Democrats. I'm thinking of former Congressman Darrell Issa, who quit, and then a Democrat, Congressman Mike Levin, won his seat down in Southern California. And that is an indication that and I think this is sort of what comes next in this story, that can be an indication of what members think the political terrain is going to be in their own state. There's a big special election coming up next month in North Carolina. North Carolina's 9th district.
Yeah.
That's the district where the absentee ballot fraud caused an election to be thrown out. It was only decided by 900 votes even after that election fraud, so it would have been even closer than that. And if Democrats end up winning what should be a Republican tilting seat, you're going to hear alarm bells going off on Capitol Hill. Now, I will caution that we said the same thing last year about a lot of special elections that narrowly went to House Republicans. They got nervous about those narrow wins that Republicans were scoring, and at the end of the day, Democrats took back control of Congress. So this race should not be close. If it's close, or even if the Democrat actually wins, then boy, I think we're going to be talking about a lot more than 5 retirements.
Before we go, is there any historical precedent here for a party that's out being able to win the White House back just 2 years later. I mean, it's pretty fast.
There is historical precedent, but you got to go back a long way for it. I mean, we're talking about the Truman administration. The Republican Congress, Republicans took control of Congress for 2 years. Harry Truman ran for re-election against the do-nothing Congress. 2 years later, Democrats won control of Congress, and Harry Truman was elected to his one full term. 4 years later, Dwight Eisenhower got swept into power with a Republican House of Representatives. He lost it just a few years later, and that was the last time that Republicans held control of the House until 1994. So it's very rare that a party loses control and then wins it back. I mean, we got to go back a very long time, and you got to go back even farther, back to Truman, to a point at which a party recaptured control in a presidential election year.
All right, Reid Wilson, thanks for joining us.
You got it, Jamal.
Thanks for watching Hill TV on YouTube. Be sure to click subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we post new videos. And head to thehill.com for all the latest political news.